Welcome. It is 7:30 in the evening in India and we are back again with a fresh edition of India at the Rate G20. Finance track of G20 has 8 working groups. One of them is Framework Working Group. Its first meeting began in Bengaluru today. The focus was on ways to tackle the current global macroeconomic challenges. On the show today, we ask how can the G20 forum help particularly the developing world in tackling low growth, high inflation, high debt and food and energy insecurity. Also on the show today, G20 delegates get a unique India experience. We will show you how. I'm Manu Bhattacharya. Let's get started with the top stories. First Framework Working Group meeting of Finance Track begins in Bengaluru. Deliberations are taking place over 2 days on the current global macroeconomic issues and policies that promote a strong, sustainable, balanced and inclusive growth across the world, particularly in developing countries. G20 delegates get a unique India experience as they visit the Kanheri caves on the outskirts of Mumbai and the famous Nandi Hills in Hampi. Delegates experience India's soft power after days of intense deliberations. In an exclusive conversation with DD India, India's G20 Joint Secretary Nagaraj Naidu Kakanur says G20 is not just about agenda setting but also about projecting the host nation, terms G20 presidency as an opportunity for India to showcase its culture and heritage to the world. Says Mumbai and Kanheri are perfect examples of how the G20 would like urban development to be. Global inflation is rising substantially, driven by higher energy and food prices and persistent supply chain disruptions. Growth is slow due to supply-side disruptions caused by the pandemic, Russia-Ukraine war and tightening of monetary policies by central banks to contain inflation. There is also a rising spiral of debt facing the developing countries. These conditions are impacting food, energy and fertilizer security, and the developing countries are the worst hit. The first Framework Working Group meeting of the finance track of G20 began in Bengaluru today and deliberated upon some of these issues. Take a look.
After the first finance track meeting in Bengaluru, the first working group known as the Framework Working Group has started discussing the macro issues deliberated during the finance track. The FWG is seized with global macroeconomic issues of current relevance, monitoring of global risks and uncertainties, and possible areas of policy coordination aimed at prompting strong, sustainable, balanced and inclusive growth across the G20. India and the UK co-chair this working group. There are 8 such working groups. The FWG's agenda is to discuss and negotiate macroeconomic policy tools to solve the inflation problem. It will take technical details from FAO and WTO on seamless supplies. It will submit a report to the finance track led by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. It will also discuss the climate change and targets under energy transition. Speaking exclusively to DD India, Brazil's finance ministry delegate said that his country has a lot to learn from India. Brazil is part of the G20 Troika with India and Indonesia.
India brought some very good ideas to the table, and now we are discussing how can we'll make our approach even better. We are already talking with India. We want to learn from you guys' experience.
Some participants feel that India could help build consensus on pressing global economic issues like rising interest rates and food inflation.
In the final analysis, we are all in the same boat as the vision. It's one earth, one family, one future. So we need to work together, and that's what we are doing. We are looking at all those key issues. Inflation is a major problem affecting most, if not all, countries. Interest rates are going up, and this is affecting developing countries. Everybody, but developing countries in particular who have large amounts of debt service is increasing. And coming at the same time when economic growth is slowing down, some countries are facing possible recession. So we need to work together.
The G20 finance track brings together finance ministers and central bank governors as well as their deputies and representatives. The 8 working groups will submit reports to the finance track, which will then negotiate at the finance ministers' and central bank governors' level to decide the final plan of action under the G20 presidency.
The first framework working group meeting here in Bangalore will discuss the significant deterioration in the global economy, especially in the developing nations. This is the very first meeting of the working group under finance track, which will discuss the rising inflation and how the coordination between G20 nations can find some possible solutions to these global issues. With camera person P. Senthil Kumar, Ajay Mishra, DD India, Bangalore.
And for perspective, we are now joined by Professor Manoj Pant. He is former Vice Chancellor with the Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, that is IIFT. Professor Pant, welcome to this special broadcast, India at G20. We are aware of the several macroeconomic challenges that the world is facing, and today's meeting in Bengaluru focused on providing solutions to the several problems through the G20. So let's take them up one by one. One major challenge is the impact of low growth and high inflation on food security. How do you think G20 can come up with solutions to this challenge?
Well, you see, inflation is just one of those things which is now internationally transmitted. You know, if the USA raises interest rates, it has the impact on India because it affects our foreign exchange flow. Therefore, we tend to raise interest rates, and it's a snowball effect. So I think the main objective of this meeting, like the G20 when it was first set up in 2008 in response to global recession, is how to make countries at least coordinate. Just like we coordinate in trade, how can we also coordinate macro policies? That doesn't mean any country is going to give up their right to control their own monetary or fiscal policy, but some kind of coordination on inflation. Now, inflation today is largely driven by issues like food prices. And as you know, the Ukraine crisis led to that. So how can we cooperate? Like India did a lot to keep down or help control inflation due to a sudden disruption in food supplies after the Ukraine war. So how can we build this cooperation into the framework? That's, I think, that the main objective of G20 is to increase cooperation and the mechanism for cooperation.
Prime Minister, while addressing a session on food and energy security, spoke about the fertilizer crisis. He said today's fertilizer shortage is tomorrow's food crisis. Who do you think is responsible for the fertilizer shortage currently? Because I remember that the Minister of Fertilizers spoke in Parliament about how certain companies and countries have profited due to high fertilizer prices. Also, what possibly could be a solution there?
Well, India, of course, we know what happened. Basically, because of the reduction or the sudden stoppage of supply of fertilizer by Russia, which was also stopped because of the global ban on transactions with the Russian economy. It is also affected by the sudden disruption of supply of oil, which also majorly impacts these fertilizer subsidy. But I don't think there is a major shortage of fertilizer in the long run. I mean, the short term is mainly because of the Ukraine war, disrupted supplies, and the supply demand balances on things like fertilizers, etc., is so finely balanced that a temporary stoppage from any one country leads to a jump. India was mainly affected, of course, by Russian supplies. I think working on an alternate payment mechanism will sort out the problem, but I don't see fertilizer supply globally being the main cause of inflation. I don't think that's true.
Now, further building on food security, the Prime Minister in his address to the session that I was talking about on energy security and food security at Bali during the G20 summit there, spoke about how India provided not just for the 1.3 billion people, that is 130 crore Indians during the pandemic, but also supplied food grains to different parts of the world. He also spoke about India's role in pushing for an international year of millets and the nutritious value of millets. We are also aware that how this is something that requires very less water for cultivation, so it is not water intensive in nature. So again, very important as far as sustainable development is concerned. Is India once again coming forward as a solution provider to several challenges, including food security, through the G20?
No, the Prime Minister is absolutely right. Actually, if you look at it, it's like the vaccine crisis. The vaccine crisis in the world, India had to step up. sometimes at the cost of supplies within the country to make sure that the global economy was affected by the pandemic. Same thing had happened in the case of wheat. Now, at the present, we can't do it because we cannot supply wheat to the whole world. But when it required, especially countries like Egypt, etc., we stepped up from our buffer stocks of wheat to supply wheat to make up for the shortage, which was entirely, of course, due to the Ukraine war. Now the war temporarily that there's an agreement to let wheat supplies continue to be shipped from Ukraine despite the ongoing war between Ukraine and Russia. But India has stepped up in that minimum. Again, food, it's a very close balance. So India has come up at a very crucial time to sort of bring about the balance, but we have to agree on the mechanism. It can't be India every time doing this, right?
Right.
So we have to agree on a mechanism that how will we do this? And when we go to the WTO and we want to talk about food security, they don't want to discuss this. But if we had not given some of the measures we do to support our farmers, we would not have had the wheat to supply at this crisis. So food security as a buffer in times of distress is something you have to plan. That's what the pandemic has taught us. The other thing, of course, is climate change. So yes, India did step up both in the case of vaccines and the case of wheat, but it cannot be a continuous effort. How do we coordinate this in these times? Back to the issue of coordination.
On the issue of energy security, we are aware of the kind of disruptions that have been brought about to energy supplies by the Russia-Ukraine crisis, the energy cap which the G7 countries have imposed on Russia, and of course, the COVID-19 pandemic has had its own impact as well. Now, having said that, what do you think G20 can do to break the impasse which is there currently? Though the fuel prices are not so high internationally, yet we've seen what has happened in the past, and there is always a likelihood of greater volatility going forward.
Now, let me give you my view as an economist. I'm not a government spokesman. Personally, I think this hasn't been too bad a thing. There's a little bit of disruption due to food supply, due to destruction. I think the world has got to learn to live without, fossil fuels. And the one thing that the pandemic taught us is that look what happens if your climate gets out of control due to fossil fuels. And it showed us that for the 2 years when everything was stopped globally, how improved our climate was. So I think hopefully this will lead the G20 countries to cooperate in alternative supplies. Instead of telling one country you should not ban or you should not do, this is not going to work. The European economies are not going to agree to take back the ban on Russian supplies, and India also will continue to take supplies on Russia because we have a problem. I think G20 will have to agree on how we can cooperate in other issues of energy. I don't think fuel is the only thing. There are many other sources of energy, for example, solar energy. I mean, India is extremely well placed to provide such solar energy if we get the right technical cooperation. So what kind of technological cooperation G20 countries can ensure so that these kind of energy crises don't keep recurring? I mean, I think that's what you have to really think about.
Right. So fuel is part of the overall energy mix, and there's much more to it, like you said, and there is a need to move towards a greater energy transition. Perhaps the Russia-Ukraine war is making many countries that were dependent on Russian oil and gas to further enhance their dependence on green energy transition. But for that, the developing countries require technology, like you said, and also the right amount of finance. They need adequate, affordable finance to finance that sort of just energy transition. So what role do you think G20 can play in ensuring that?
Okay, can you still hear me? I thought the link got interrupted. Am I clear still?
Yes, you are.
Okay, well, I still believe the essential issue of G20 is, like in 2008 when it was set up, how do we ensure cooperation? If we don't know if a pandemic is going to happen again, at least this one, we know some pandemic will happen. As it is well known among scientists that there are 4 parasites, right? There are 4, living beings: human beings, animals, plants, and parasites. Only 3 have independent existence: human beings, plants, and animals. So parasites will take a home sometimes in animals, sometimes in humans and sometimes they will keep going from one to the other. So pandemic will not stop. It means the next one may not be as bad. We saw what happened in 1918. The next one may not be as bad, but again, WTO is also seized of it. The purpose, I think, of G20 is to make sure that a pandemic or does not become an excuse for protectionism, which it had become till the world realized we either live together. Pandemic had a great lesson. You either live all together or you die separately. I mean, that's simple as that. And we all learn to live together. And I think that's the lesson which G20 should try to incorporate. Hopefully, the WTO is also looking at this issue of what do we do if people use every such excuse as a way of saying now we are being protectionist because of this. I think that's the lessons which we will need to learn.
Fair enough. There is a huge debt crisis facing the low and middle income countries. Bangladesh has sought help from the IMF. We've seen what a debt crisis can do to a developing economy when we saw what happened to Sri Lanka a few months back. Having said that, we also heard from the first Deputy Managing Director of the IMF, Geeta Gopinath, that the G20 common framework is not delivering. It needs to be strengthened to tackle the debt crisis in low-income countries particularly. So do you see any consensus going forward in the G20 for a more effective debt resolution framework where the debt resolution happens in a more timely and comprehensive manner?
See, it's like this. Whatever any man would do, and we economists have one very bad habit. We are not able to say we don't know. Frankly, economists don't know how to respond to a completely random, what we call exogenous event. And there is no way even the IMF could have anticipated this event. Now let's take these two countries you mentioned, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, almost all its earnings come from export of tea and earnings from tourism. Bangladesh, 85% of the exports are garments. So all these single countries, small countries, single, major, sort of users or exporters of single, small or two or three or less items are going to get damaged by something like the pandemic. But I don't think that's going to sustain. And that's what the IMF is there for. And I think Ms. Gopinath knows that the IMF must give succor to, because Bangladesh has very good fundamentals otherwise. So does Sri Lanka. It's just that this pandemic is something you cannot predict is going to happen. And I don't think that's an issue of major concern. Once again, as you mentioned, fuel, the IMF was meant for this lesson. Sometimes, as we all know, IMF lending also becomes a political issue. That must be careful, that not to be used as a political issue in these kinds of crises. I think that, if we agree, is a big step forward, and I think India can do a lot on that. Absolutely. We did that. We did help Sri Lanka. We've done did help Bangladesh whatever we could, but that's what we need to understand.
Developing economies continue to push for reforms of the World Bank, IMF, multilateral development banks. This is also a continuing theme in the G20. Thank you so much, Professor Pant, for joining us with your views on the special broadcast.
Welcome. Thank you.
G20 foreign delegates visited the famous Nandi Hills in Hampi and paid obeisance to Yogi Nandeshwara Swami. That made for a great spiritual experience for the delegates in Bangalore. Have a look.
Rudram Namo Abhidevamasuramdavasya Ayam me hasto bhagavan Ayam me bhagavattarah Ayam me Vishwavedesha Joitame Vishwavedesha Joyam Shivavarshana Ete Sahasramanitam Pasham Mrityor Matya Yahantave Kan Yajnasya Maya Sarvar Vijamhe.
The G20 Finance Track delegation got an opportunity to have a glimpse of spiritual side of Karnataka, and Karnataka is actually known for Nandeshwara Bhagavan, who is always close to Shiva, and this is the famous Sri Yoga Nandeshwara Swami temple where they visited the Lord Shiva's temple, and also there is a bit of the temple besides, and Bhagwan Kartikeya temple is there. Along with that, there is a beautiful pond which they visited, and it was an enriching and a great spiritual experience for all of them. With camera person Kuldeep Sharma, Ajay Mishra for DD India.
Well, food security has been deliberated upon as one of the priority agendas under India's G20 presidency, with 2023 declared as the International Year of Millets. Karnataka is making full use of the opportunity to showcase the diversity and the nutritious value of millets grown in the state. DD India's correspondent Ajay Mishra brings us more from Bengaluru.
The year 2023 has been declared as the International Year for Millet, and the millet is one crop which is getting more and more attention of not only domestic buyers but internationally. And millet is one superb showcase here at the finance track of G20 meet, and we'll try and explain what it means for the state of the economy. We have with us Mr. Nikhilesh, who is the project manager with Dharmasthala, which is a non-government company. Let us understand the structure that you work on and exactly what are you doing.
We are having 3 farmer producer company in all over Karnataka. That's one is in Koppala, then that is next in Chikkanaikanhalli, and one in Davangere. These are all run by farmers itself. And also there is a CEO. In each company there are 1,000 farmers. They are the shareholders of the company. Each farmer they pay around 1,000 rupees, just like share market, and the major thing that they receive is the marketing facility. We majorly focus on millets, so we insist the farmers to cultivate millets, as next year it is becoming International Millet Year, so we will be a ready market for them. And also, other than the marketing, they also get other activities at a reduced price.
You know, the farmer producer organization has been one big focus of the government, because there are 10,000 FPOs which has been designed in the budget to benefit the farmers, and this is one structure which is gaining popularity here in Karnataka. But look at the variety that the Karnataka have.
These are the major millets that is available. Proso millet is very good for the bones and all, and also it's very good for the skin. And next, coming to the pearl millet, this is another millet that is helpful for the respiratory problems, that's for the lungs and all. And coming to the finger millet, that is a major millet that's grown in Karnataka, and it is having the highest calcium content among all the millets, and it's very good if you are facing constipations and all. Coming to the sorghum, this is another millet that is being consumed highly in Karnataka, like jolad roti and all. And this millet is very good for some aspects of cancers.
What are the other products that you are focusing on? The food processing is a very important part to increase the farmers' income level. Yeah. So what are the main products that you have made?
By just simply selling the rice, it's not applicable, because people want taste, and just consuming rice won't be an aspect. So that's why we have value added these products. After rice, we have also provided atta products and also bakery products. We have made ready-to-eat cookies, ready-to-eat products like barnyard millet idli mix.
So I just want to understand now that what are the benefits that farmer gets out of 100 rupees? How much farmer earn if you actually source raw material from them and actually make value addition products?
There are 2 aspects. Other than income, they will get a market. That is the major thing. And also, this is a millet market is completely eradicated. Now completely next year millets are being focused, so that's one opportunity. Second of all, by joining with our companies and all, they get other services, as I told, agriculture. And coming to the market price, we'll provide them at a better price compared to the market, especially at around 1 rupee per kg will be higher compared to all the compared to other markets and all. That's the major benefit.
We also have the very senior officials with the KFC SC. What are your expectations after G20? How do you see the market of this ragi growing forward from the state of the Karnataka?
Yes, that is the government of India giving the good price. That is a market price is available 15 hours, 20, 15, 16 and 20 rupees. But government of India is giving for minimum support price is a 3578 rupees. That is 3,578 rupees per quintal. That is a good price, and also all farmers is growing now finger millets, improving. Last year also it is 3.5 lakh metric ton is there. Now the 5 lakh metric ton is given the target for government of India. It is especially for encouragement of the farmers. The government of India is giving the huge opportunity for especially for all farmers, and also South Karnataka farmers.
Thanks very much. I think millet is going to be the one major focus out here in G20 presidency, and this is win-win for consumers, for the farmers, as well as for the traders which are involved in the production and marketing of the millets. With camera person Kuldeep Sharma, Ajay Mishra, DD News, Bengaluru.
So if you haven't included millets in your food plate, now you have every reason to. G20 delegates attending the development group meeting in Mumbai visited the Kanheri caves in the outskirts of the city of Mumbai and experienced India's soft power after the current round of intense deliberations drew to a close in the maximum city. Take a look.
Even as the substantive meetings of the first development working group of G20 concluded in Mumbai on Thursday, Friday was a day of unique India experience for the delegates. The delegates visited the ancient Kanheri caves in Sanjay Gandhi National Park on the outskirts of Mumbai. The excursion provided delegates an opportunity to experience Mumbai's cultural and green oasis in the midst of a fast-growing urban metropolis after 2 days of intense deliberations. The foreign delegates were enthused by the history of the caves.
We are very happy and very I think very gratitude for the opportunity that the Indian presidency gave to us. Your hospitality is beyond, it's above the bar, and putting it all pressures to the other G20 countries is going hoarse in the previous G20, and we're very welcome and also loving that you really blend in the cultural thing in this event and making us more learn about India, not only about the development.
Well, I really impressed by this place. This is made of one lava. It's ancient eruptions heritage. Then you have the kind of origins of the Buddhism that is later imported to Japan. So I'm very, very happy to be here.
The Kanheri caves contain Buddhist sculptures and carvings, paintings and inscriptions dating from the 1st century.
The largest and one of the earliest Buddhist caves is located in Kanheri, which is in the heart of Mumbai, and as you can see that this place gives a picturesque experience, picturesque location to everybody who comes here. And after the delegation and after the discussions of the development working group, we did see that the foreign delegates of the G20 were taken here for the excursion at the Kanheri cave, and as you can see the cave are all well maintained, and even the visitors, even the delegates had an immersive experience over here.
The caves were built in the 1st century and had become an important Buddhist settlement on the Konkan coast by the 3rd century CE.
These 2,000-year-old caves lied on the trade routes that connected Sopara, Kalyan and other port cities, thus symbolizing the need for interconnectivity and a trade that is fair and equitable. With cameraman YK Loknath, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in Mumbai.
And that's not all. There's more happening in terms of showcasing India's soft power. Let's take you to Bangalore for the cultural event where G20 delegates are present. With that, I'll take your leave. Enjoy these visuals. Namaskar.
changing world of news. Headlines that you wake up to. News that shapes your day. Stories that matter to you. The latest and most accurate updates. A fresh start to a new day. The Breakfast News, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. on DD India.
इतनी जल्दी पैसे डबल?
ओह, जमा करोगे तो फिर भुगतोगे। यहाँ लो, ऐसी लुभाने वाली स्कीम में पैसे जमा करना यानी धोखे की संभावना, इसलिए पहले पूरी जांच, उसके बाद पैसे जमा, नहीं तो आपके पैसे हो जाएंगे पुर्र। आरबीआई कहता है
जानकार बनिए, सतर्क रहिए।
Namaskar, you're watching Virtual Encounters. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. We'll talk about cricket today. Ishan Kishan played gem of an innings against Bangladesh in the third ODI. He scored 210 and joined the elite club of Virendra Sehwag, Sachin Tendulkar, Rohit Sharma, Chris Gayle and Martin Guptill also. And in the process, also became the fastest cricketer to score double century in ODIs. He surpassed the record of Chris Gayle and he scored 200 in just 126 deliveries. But in every cricketer's life, coach's role is very, very important. We are joined by Ishan Kishan's coach, Uttam Majumdar, today. He has been coaching him for the last 17 years when he was just 6-year-old. Welcome, Uttam Bhai. Welcome to DD India. Appreciate you giving us your precious time. How are you doing? And you must be on cloud 9. The way Ishan Kishan played, you must be a very, very proud coach. Exceptional innings by Ishan Kishan. We want to hear from you. How will you describe Ishan Kishan's innings?
Absolutely. Thank you, Abhishek sir. It's a lovely moment that I'm presenting for the Ishan's world record, and that the day we remember. And I was there in my academy under 13 match was going on, and that the present I was seeing a watch that world record match is on my mobile. And that was very surprised that how he's just hitting that ball. That last night we just discussing about with one of my friend to what happens next. I'll told him that it's something bigger is coming. It's something is bigger is coming. Just the day before that one a day, and that day I really realized. I just pray to God that I just that innings I dedicated to my dad. The dad is passed away the last year when he just Ishan before that debut that India against England. Just 10 days back, that my dad told him that you will be play for not only the country, and you will be playing like you have to be a king for just playing for forever. How he just scored the runs. So that my dad's words, as I really remember. And that innings I never forget. I celebrate with my all academy boys with their parents, and everybody's just called me, and all the media people that's call me and to be congratulate to me. And this is I'm totally thanks to Almighty that how he just because in this particular time that we remember that and it is a lot of mental thing that it's lots of pressure that it's happened. When the people is not getting chances, it's not that. But I always told him that you have to be wait for the chance. You have to have patience in your life. That whatever the chance will come, you have to be just crash it. So these things has happened, and that Ishan done very well.
Also, Uttam Bhai, he has joined the ranks of Rohit Sharma. He has scored 200 twice in ODIs. Sachin Tendulkar, the first Indian to score 200 in ODIs. Martin Guptill is there. Chris Gayle. I mean, there are very few who have scored 200 in ODIs, and the way he played, fastest 200 in the cricket history in ODIs, it's not a small feat. But again, the question comes up, what next for him? He was a replacement player for Rohit Sharma. Now, many are saying that he should be a regular in ODIs now. What do you think should be next for him? Regular in ODIs and big contender for the World Cup in 2023?
Absolutely, sir. And I always admire for this respect for that Indian team management,
Yeah.
because they always support the youngsters, and because of Ishan innings, it is not only for his comeback innings, he just totally dominated the
Yes.
bowlers.
Yes.
That is the more important thing, is that because India needs, especially for the India not achieved for the last couple of years for
Yeah.
that ICC trophy,
Yeah.
because bilateral series that they have won it, but ICC trophy is the something different. And
Yes.
I hope Ishan, how he just played, I hope that no, he will be next candidate with Rohit with as a opener for this upcoming World Cup. He has to play and to be cleanse the World Cup for us, and that is our main priority. Because once Ishan played, for he not to play for his individual landmark.
Yes, you're right, Uttam bhai. He completely dominated the innings. 10 sixes in the innings. He scored 200 in 126 deliveries, 10 sixes and 24 fours, if I'm not
24
wrong.
four
Yeah,
boundaries. Yeah.
but I mean, he said in his post-match interview also that he was guided by Virat Kohli. Must have been a big plus. Day before he was guided by Surya Kumar Yadav, and people love him. I mean, in the cricketers, his colleagues also, his players also, players who play with him, they also love him. So everyone wants him to be part of the 11. But it's just that, I mean, he got, you think he got ample opportunities before the T20 World Cup. He was very unlucky to miss out. Otherwise, the way he has been playing, the way he plays, he should have been part of the T20 World Cup.
Absolutely, because but I hope whatever the India team management is said, I never taught him that no, it's like that. Once you get the opportunity, that time you will be
Yeah.
showing your performance, because it's happens that once you come in and come out, but your mental aspect, that is a more important. But you had to have some positiveness always.
Yes.
Once you get a chance, that time you have to be show your performance. That's always to guided him. That's why his moral is never gone. It's never, he's always excited to play and perform for Team India. He's always very positive. Because of his, I always told him that no, your mental aspect is more important rather than to other you getting chances or not. Because you are a professional cricketer, it doesn't any kind of things that in your mind that no, it's your chances is coming or not, but you always ready to get the chance. Once you get a chance, that time you have to be show your performance, and that will be a most important thing. And that time you show your character, that you how you positive you are.
He was not part of the T20 World Cup squad, but did he speak to you when he was not included? Because he was a big contender, but I mean, he was not included. You're talking about the mental aspect. What was his reaction? I mean, obviously he must have been very disappointed, but how did he take that? Did he speak to you? What did he say?
Absolutely, we just keep in touch always. That no,
Yeah.
once before that Bangladesh, we went to meet with India South Africa series and at Bangalore. And well, before the start, that no, we in Delhi, it's a 5 hours we spent that with the Ishan at hotels. And that time we have to be lots of that, because some of the technical things, some of the skills point of view, that balance about that as a batter, how he just improved that. No, that is the most priority for as a cricketer when he playing for a Team India. And I once I met with him, and I always in 5 hours time that we spent, and that time it to be discussing about that his mental strength, about that giving him a lot of confidence, lots of things to give in. And after that we didn't get that night, and in there we have taken some of the drills in the hotels, that restaurant lobby, and we have some that skills I have to be showing him, and to how do you improve your batting, that no, you have to be balanced, right? So that I shown, and we seen that no, he done very well that South Africa series in a T20 or one day. He got that man of the series, man of the tournament, and that's how we communicate.
He's very talented. We all know Tambai, and you've said it before also, the way he practices. For example, you were saying it earlier that if he practices 600 deliveries, 600 balls in the nets, 200 will be power hitting. So you've taught him right from the beginning. That, after the advent of T20, he has to play like that, because that is his strength.
That is his strength. His strength is very natural. Once I just going back a little bit of 17 years when I saw him at Patna. That time I was in that time in cricketer, as a playing in a professional cricketer, and I was and as a coach as well. My two vision was there.